Call.
Mayor Gerardo Sanchez,
Present.
Vice Mayor Africa Luna Carrasco,
Present.
Councilmember Mario Buchanan Jr.,
Present.
Councilmember Luis Cabrera, Councilmember Jose Ponce,
Present.
Councilmember Matias Rosales,
Present.
Councilmember Gloria Torres.
Present.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. We're going to go ahead and go with item number 2A, presentation followed by discussion and possible direction of staff in all matters regarding the Yuma County Broadband Middle Mile Fiber Backbone Project. Jenny Torres, Economic Development.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the council. The presentation actually is going to be between the four of us. So myself, Jenny Torres, Susan Thorpe, City Administrator from Yuma County, Paul Briley, University of Arizona, and then Mark Smith from Smith Farms. So I gave you a brief at the last ARPA meeting, a presentation of broadband. So Susan, what she's going to do is she's been, and all of them have been going to the Yuma County Board of Supervisors to really push to try to start negotiations with Alloy, which is the potential company that could come in and help us with this project. So I'm going to let her kind of run through the presentation. She has a map, which is different than what I had showed you, because it was the original loop map that we had. And so she's going to focus on that, and then we'll be able to address any questions and answers. Okay?
Good evening, Mayor Council, Susan Thorpe, Yuma County Administrator. Oh, thank you very much. So communities throughout Yuma County lack high-speed internet access. Even before COVID, we had poor internet service. Our legacy providers have not invested in upgrades to current systems. We became painfully aware of the serious lack of adequate internet service during the COVID pandemic, especially for children with the challenges of trying to learn from home remotely, citizens trying to work from home, and patients trying to receive medical care remotely. Because of these conditions, the Yuma County Board of Supervisors identified broadband as its highest priority when the American Rescue Plan Act was approved and the categories were announced. Yuma County is planning to commit a significant amount of funds toward assuring broadband access throughout the county in partnership with our cities and towns. We also believe we can successfully apply for state and federal funds to maximize the network that we build. Our goal for the Yuma County Broadband Backbone Project is for every city, every area, every farm, to the extent possible, to be able to access high-speed, reliable, and affordable internet service. The project will use the latest fiber technology to build a backbone delivery system to reach most areas of Yuma County. The last mile providers that connect to our backbone will be required to provide end users with the fastest speeds available today. This will be speeds of 1 gigabit per second for residential and 10 gigabits per second for businesses. So broadband basically is shorthand for high-speed internet connection provided by an internet service provider. It allows users to connect with the digital services that they need in our ever-changing world. High-speed broadband supports speeds of at least 100 megabits per second by definition, and the speeds that have evolved to gigabits per second, which was what we are proposing with the backbone. 6 ways that Americans access the internet are digital subscriber line, which uses copper lines to transmit data via electricity. And this uses existing copper phone lines, which is outdated technology. Cable or coaxial cable uses cable networks to transport data with a copper core and a shielded design to allow it to transmit voice, TV, and broadband signals. Fiber optic, or fiber, uses light and glass to transport data. This is the gold standard, and it's future-proof in what the county is going to be using for the broadband backbone. Fixed wireless comes from towers, similar to cell phone towers, that send a signal to the antenna at your home. Satellite wireless comes from orbiting satellites that transmit radio waves down to a satellite dish on your home, like satellite TV. Mobile wireless is accessed by a smart device when traveling from one location to another. The signal finds the closest tower that has the capability, as the person travels, the signal must find a new available tower to keep up. So why is rural broadband important? Telebusiness and economic development. This includes broadband for business, employment, and real estate. Studies demonstrate that broadband is linked to high income growth, lower unemployment rates, and higher salaries. Broadband is also crucial in a firm's decision to locate or relocate to a rural community. Teleeducation. More than 70% of teachers assign homework online, but 15% of school children lack broadband access in order to do that homework. Telehealth. Rural communities suffer from a lack of doctors and health centers. A high-speed broadband connection can mean the difference between driving to a health center or meeting with a healthcare professional virtually at home. Civic engagement. Broadband access has been proven to improve civic engagement and voter turnout. Public safety. First responders need access to broadband as much as civilians do. FirstNet is America's public safety broadband network and exclusively is managed by and operated by AT&T. Unfortunately, it's not available everywhere. And quality of life. Broadband can improve quality of life and encourage young people to visit and stay in our rural communities. So what are we planning to build and why? The purpose of the middle mile backbone is to lower the barrier of entry for last mile service providers and to incentivize high-level service to unserved and underserved areas of the county. The backbone is similar to an electric transmission line. Service providers will lease fiber from the backbone transmission line and in turn construct their own distribution network to serve what is called the last mile to homes and businesses. Because the county has installed this middle mile, the cost to providers and therefore to end users will be much lower, while speeds and reliability will be much higher than currently available. Open access means that the network permits any broadband provider to connect to the network on non-discriminatory terms and conditions. The county's proposed backbone network will reach from major regional internet hubs in Phoenix or San Diego or Las Vegas to local connection sites that we initially identified in our broadband RFP. The county will lease fiber in the backbone to internet service providers who will serve the last mile network reaching homes and businesses throughout Yuma County. With this project, Yuma County plans to build the backbone as critical infrastructure, meaning built to last, just like roads, water, and sewer lines. The backbone will be underground to the largest extent possible. We plan to install the latest fiber infrastructure now that will future-proof the network versus technology that will need to be replaced in 10 years. The backbone will be built to handle future population increases and economic development needs. The backbone will be diverse, redundant, and open access that provides access to locations throughout the county. The goal is to provide this broadband transmission line to lower the barrier to entry for private providers to serve our smaller communities and rural areas. Without this backbone, service providers would not invest the capital to serve our less populated areas. So as mentioned, here is the map that the county's RFP team has created. As you can see, the middle mile backbone network is in green, and you can see the way that it's looped in order to provide redundancy and reliability for service. The vendor will make this network available for broadband providers at competitive market rates for dark and lit services, and we anticipate the vendor will also want to provide internet services on the network. I'd like for two members of our task force and our proposal evaluation team to come forward and speak a little bit more on their roles and their perspective about the backbone and the benefits that it will have for the city of San Luis. So Mark Smith is with Smith Farms Company, and Paul Brierly is with U of A Yuma Center of Excellence for Desert Agriculture. So I ask each one of them to come up and speak.
Thank you, Susan. Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor. Nice
Okay.
to be before you again.
Yes, that was nice. Thank you. Always welcome.
I think maybe I'll just give a little perspective on how we got to where we're at, and it's been a few years actually that Mark and I've been working on this, and our objective has been to make sure that we get broadband out in the rural areas throughout Yuma County. And when I think of rural, I think even of the farm field, to be honest, because we work on ag tech. To use drones and remote sensors and automated equipment requires that. So the nice thing about that is if we get the infrastructure that looks like that means we're going to have infrastructure to allow services to be provided everywhere in all the communities here. So Mark started really the political route, right? Because we realized how unserved we were, underserved and unserved. This was well before the pandemic and any of that. And I don't know, you want to talk about it? Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, starting about 5 years ago, we realized how poor our internet services were in all of Yuma. Of course, it was very bad down here and most of the rest of Yuma. And as we educate ourselves and learn more about it, and then what you also find out, it's a totally unregulated industry. There is no oversight, there is no regulation, there is no minimum standards. It's not like what we're used to with other services. So as time has evolved, we all, internet 10 years ago was a luxury item. Today, it's critical infrastructure. It needs to be addressed as critical infrastructure. Water, power, sewer, those are all regulated utilities. Internet is not, but you can't operate water, power, and sewer systems without the internet. So we have a problem in that aspect of a critical infrastructure. So we set out and we worked, we tried to work with the telecoms from the business side and the agriculture side to improve services in the Yuma County area. And we got a lot of pushback. So we, as Paul pointed out, we took a political route and we got the support of the governor's office, the Corporation Commission, most of our congressional delegation, and we met with the telecoms. And we learned a lot about that. A lot of it is, these are all private companies, for-profit, global, big companies. They operate on wherever they make their most profit. They made it very clear that if they don't make the ROI, they have no interest in spending resources or money in an area. And they would take their money where they make the most ROI. And the other thing you find out is if there is no competition, there is no interest in improving it. They're charging you the same amount in San Luis or Yuma as they are San Diego or Phoenix, but they might be delivering us 3 to 5 megs and they're getting 100 megs or a gig. But there's no competition. They don't want to spend any money on upgrading equipment. So that's what we're faced with in Yuma County. We don't have enough competition. We have old systems. They were coupled together from different providers over time, and they take their money and put it in other markets. Well, as they found out with the pandemic, a lot of systems have not been upgraded because they just buy up other systems and they don't upgrade them. And so the country woke up and found out that we have a problem, and which we already knew in Yuma County. So we worked on it. We got some improvements, but there's limits to what their systems can do without putting new systems in. And they don't appear to have an interest in putting new systems in or upgrading their systems anymore. So after, with the pandemic, we also recognized, Congress recognized, State of Arizona recognized that we need to upgrade rural America with broadband. Yes. So that formed the new task force to put together a project and start figuring out how do we serve Yuma County, all of Yuma County. And the main goal is to make sure we get all the unserved and underserved portions of the county. And to do that, we looked at how strategically how we do that, and we start out and the concept is put a backbone in, or what we call middle mile. And so we developed that, and from there, we use grant monies to build that, and then from there, in the new legislation that was in the Infrastructure Act, there's a lot of money for what we call last mile. But we have to have the backbone to get to the last mile. And so there's the proposed map of where it's at. And so looking at this, we also decided or the concept is to build this to critical infrastructure levels. The current systems are not built that way. Most of them are single point failure, and all your systems are going to be operating on internet and these systems in the future. You cannot put whole communities, all your emergency services, police, fire, all that on a single point failure system. So we have designed a loop system. So anywhere on that map you cut the line, you can still have service to your community. So that's a key point. So when you look at critical infrastructure and the way this is designed, we want it to be like that. We want it to be buried, so it's protected. So it'll be underground. We want to have redundancy. We want to have capacity for growth. The demand for bandwidth goes up 50% a year. So whatever your system's built for today, you'll outgrow it pretty fast if you're not designed for growth. So even if you don't use any more capacity, your smart device, your computer uses more capacity. That's the software. So that's all designed in. So your system has to be able to grow with it. That's part of the problem with some of the old legacy systems. They don't have that capacity. This system will have that capacity. So we have to, this is a system that's supposed to be future-proof, is to be able to meet the needs for the next 30 plus years of our communities and the growth potential in these communities. So we wanted to look at that. The goal is to serve all of Yuma County. The densely populated parts of the county have services, although they need to be upgraded, but the rural parts either have limited or no services. So if that's your only form of communications, we, as a county and a community, we need to look at how do we serve everyone. And so to do that, we start out with a backbone, and that gets, you know, and as Susan points out, that's like your main transmission lines of your electricity. And then from there, you step it down to the transformer goes to your home. Well, this is the same way. We step it down and deliver it out. So those are different funding sources we get from that, but we have to have a backbone to get it, get it across the county. So that's the goal of that. We want to have an open access so other different providers can come in and access it. That's different than the current systems. You cannot hook on the CenturyLink system or one of the other providers and start serving because you compete against them. This with open access. What you find in the telecommunications business, if there's a single provider, you have really bad service and really high cost. If you have multiple providers, you have much better service and a lower cost. So this gives access for other providers to come in and serve and compete for the business. The other thing that this would have, it'll have minimum standards. Any person that hooks onto the county system would have to provide a minimum standard to their customer. One of the very frustrating things about broadband, there is no minimum standard. You can pay for 100 megabytes, you might get 5 or 10. Yeah, it's like buying a 12-ounce soda and getting two ounces.
Lots
You know,
of
that's
ice.
that's not very fun.
I
You know,
feel it.
and that's the problem with broadband services. So we're going to have some minimum standards of people that operate off the system. So these are some of the cornerstones of the system. And the goal is, again, to get to all parts of the county, get the underserved and unserved. You know, one of the things, you know, in this community feels is really for them is education. Our schools are all moving to the tablets. Get them at school, and you got to go home and do your homework. You can't do your homework if you don't have broadband connectivity. And it has to be high speed. The difference between the old systems and new systems, all your devices now, they talk up and down. The old systems, you know, you talk down, but then all your software, all your apps operate in the cloud. You have to have symmetrical up and down. The only way you can get symmetrical up and down is off of fiber. So again, this is a new system. It would have fiber. It would have that redundancy. It would have that symmetrical up and down. And again, if you have one thing in the entire thing you can do to service your entire population, that's improving their broadband. This affects every child, every household, every business. If we're looking at the growth that's going to happen in the Yuma area along the border here, these companies need broadband services. They're going to start checking and seeing what is your capacity. If you don't have the capacity or the ability to get them the capacity, they're going to go somewhere else because they can't put in these major installations and not have that capacity to serve their business and their growth. So that's going to be critical moving forward. Companies are now waking up and figuring out that not everyone will have that capacity. The other thing, there's a lot of communities that are getting their services upgraded. If we don't upgrade our area, we will not be competitive with other areas. And so businesses will locate in other areas. So it's critical moving forward because other communities are getting high-speed broadband. So to be competitive, we have to get it to do that. Again, the support of this project is going to benefit everybody in the community. It's going to benefit the future, the growth of it, your education, and all the businesses. And we want to just keep this in mind, that this is critical infrastructure. This is your main part of your critical infrastructure. It's like our main canals that deliver the water, the main power system. You know, it's water, power, sewer, roads. We put broadband in front of that. It's broadband, water, power, sewer, and roads. You can't operate the rest without broadband. So again, just keep that in mind, and that's the underlying concept of this system here. Paul?
If I just make a couple more comments. So just to put a little bit of perspective on the middle mile, what is it? The company that wants to provide service, fiber to the home, broadband service, they've got to get back to figuring. So that ends up, if you're not right in downtown Yuma where there is connection to the bigger internet that goes out to San Diego and wherever, then you've got this large barrier to entry, like for other places in the county. And so by providing this lowers those barriers so companies can come in and provide that last mile to consumers in other areas. That's why this is important. And so it allows the company to have an ROI, and I think if he's got ROI, I want to commend the county and dedicating so much to the ARPA fund, because they do something without lowering the state. So kudos to them for stepping up and saying, we want to make sure that as a county, we get this out there, and the work started before all this, but now it's turned into a really once-in-a-lifetime opportunity because of all the coming. Some have already come, but then you know the infrastructure bills and rural development bills are all going to focus on broadband. But what we found over the years was even the state wanted to fund us for some of this, but if we didn't have shovel-ready projects and all we had was problems, then no funding. So what we've done now is said, this is what we build. We need to find the funding to do it. And some of it's the county, we hope some of it's the municipality, some of it's going to be the state, and some of it's going to be federal. So we'll just build this, you know, better and better. But like Mark said, it becomes infrastructure that's just like roads. It will always be upgraded, kept, you know, kind of future-proof, so that it's not one company that we're beholden to, but this will always be upgraded and available for any company to come buy on. So I guess, well, and then I guess the last thing I would say is just this once in a lifetime opportunity, us being kind of on the front end of it, Yuma County as a whole and all the municipalities can really brag about that and attract industry and companies and residents here based on the fact we're going to have both state-of-the-art access to the bigger world for the internet.
I want to add a little bit more to that for Paul. He talks about the ROI. That's one of the questions that gets asked. What is the ROI? You know, that's what the telecoms say. What's the ROI? The ROI for city government or county government is the improvement of your businesses, your productivity, the profitability in your community, and that increases your tax base. That is your ROI to your community, to the city governments or county governments that have to fund these things. So all the statistics will show that the improvement of broadband increases the business activity, increases the profitability, which increases the tax base. So that's very critical when you start looking at the ROI, because again, it's an expensive system. And again, thank you for the county for stepping up. You know, Paul and I have been working on this, and there's lots of grants out there. There's been grants out there. The problem, you can't access them because it's for the last mile portion of it. We don't have a middle mile to hook to. So this is a project that if we get the middle mile in, we will ultimately be able to serve everyone through grants of a variety of different areas through time. There's other states that are doing this, so we know that's there, but we have to get this backbone in to have that ability. Any
No,
questions
thank
on
you. I
any of
really
it?
appreciate it. It really makes a difference. We're very cautious that broadband is necessary, especially in our community. People don't realize that close to 60% of our residents don't have a computer in their home. And why would you? I mean, the service is very slow and expensive. It is very expensive. And the thing is, I think the county is actually doing it right, and you're doing it now. And I think we definitely need to invest in the broadband infrastructure. It is becoming as important as our regular facilities, which is important. And kudos to the county for starting this process. And I sure hope that all the other communities, all the other towns decide to go with this program because it's an investment for our residents in the long run. It really is. And so, and I concur. The service, the broadband that's being offered right now, we could do better. We could do that much better. Yeah. So thank you for coming. I have no questions. Does anyone have questions from council? No?
Thank you.
Very easy. Thank you. Okay, so Jenny, once again, thank you. Okay, Mary. Yes.
Task force.
I commend the task force. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mary. I just have one more condition. When the construction begins, can it begin like outside my house real quick? No, just kidding. I didn't say that. I did not say that. No. No, we're excited. Okay, we're going to go ahead with item number 2B, discussion and possible direction of staff in all matters regarding the American Rescue Plan Act, the ARPA funds, and allocation recommendations from staff. Monica Castro, Director of Finance.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. I hope everyone had a great holiday, and my best wish to all of you for a happy new year. This is our first council meeting for the new year, and I truly believe that we are positioned to do great things for the community, thanks to council support. And what the best way to start the year with a discussion about ARPA allocation. Back in November 9th, we had a work session where we provided to council an overview about the ARPA program. In that meeting, we learned that the city of San Luis was awarded $11.6 million in ARPA funds, and that those funds needed to be obligated by December 2024, and they must be spent by December 2026. Otherwise, we need to return those to the Treasury. We also explained to you the different categories that are eligible for ARPA use. And the city can utilize ARPA funds to respond to COVID-19 health emergency and its negative economic impact. We know that also we can utilize ARPA funds to pay premium pay for essential employees. Also, we can spend ARPA funds in infrastructure spending for water, wastewater, and broadband. And the last category is revenue loss. In that meeting, we asked council direction to set priorities. This is a huge undertaking. We cannot do this on our own. And we receive input from all of you, and we compile a list with the input that we receive, and that's what we will be presenting today. So, as we expected, the community needs are greater than the funds that we have. The ARPA grant is $11.6 million. The total projects submitted are $14.2 million. So we have a shortfall of $2.6 million. So the objective for this work session is we require your help, your guidance in identifying priorities and on what projects we can eliminate. The first category that we will be discussing, or the list of projects that we will be discussing, is that projects that fall under the revenue loss category. As we learned in the prior work session, Revenue loss is the category that gives us the most latitude in spending. Pretty much any project that is related to providing services to our community or that serves a government purpose qualifies under this category. In the revenue loss category is also where we have the most significant shortfall. And as you see, we have the $3 million and $5 million of total projects submitted. So in this slide, you can see the list of projects that fall under that category. We divided the list in two sections. One is a street project, and the other one is miscellaneous projects. This is where we need your help. We need you to help us identify what projects will you want us to prioritize, what projects can we eliminate. Also, I want to mention that not because these projects are eliminated, that means that we are not considering. We also have the budget process that we just started. So many of these projects that do not make it or that are eliminated, we still can consider them for the budget process. Right here today, we have the department heads ready to answer any questions that it will help you with your decision making. In the street projects, also I want to emphasize that we list them based on the department head recommendation, but we are willing to hear your input and understand exactly where your priorities are so we can have an idea on how to proceed with the allocation of funds. And I leave the floor open for your comments and before moving to the next section. Comments or questions for this category? And I can go, this category is this list of projects and the next list of projects. So we need to identify $2 million to balance it out.
How much was dedicated for broadband?
For the broadband, is in the next category. For the broadband, we have 2.9 million, I believe. And that is also an alternative. But the thing with the revenue loss, Mayor, is that the calculation of how much funds we can utilize for this category is based on a calculation that ARPA provided to us. We prepared that calculation, and based on that, we estimate that from the ARPA funds, we can only utilize $3 million. So that's our pretty much limit.
Yeah.
Yes, right. And right now we have 5 million, so we have $2 million that cannot get into that category. All the projects are important. That's what is a tough decision, and that's where we would like to get council direction.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I really looking at this list, infrastructure is so important. And the thing is, funding was always an issue, has always been an issue. So I think the projects, the County 24th Street, Avenue H and Avenue F and a half roadway does get a little bit of priority on that one. Also the East San Luis Community Park, I think we lack greenery, green in our community, especially if we're growing so fast, so quick. We still only have one park. So I think that should also be taken into account. One of the things also, the park, that includes the park PD and fire. It's no longer a substation, it is a station. I was clarified by the two chiefs back there that it's not a substation, Mayor, it's a station. Station number 1 or station number 2. And I appreciate that. Thank you, chiefs. What was the other one? I think the County 22nd Street lights, 4th Avenue, very important. Let's see here, what was that one? The street lights, 4th Avenue, Sidewinder Road, it's very important. That's critical. It's one of the projects that I think that's one part of the city that still remains very unsafe. And I know the issue was with the funding. I know YMPO has designated certain amount of money for that. But I believe if we could do our part, it'd be done quicker. But those are the ones that I'm looking at. I know widening Avenue F is also crucial, but that's a major project. But those are the ones that I'm looking for infrastructure. I mean, we need all this stuff. I understand, but those I
Right.
think are critical that we can do, and they can be done quick. And I believe they can be shovel ready. Okay, no, Mr. Reda.
I was reading this wrong. So we're saying we got 3 million available. Total is 5,070,000. So we need to remove 2,070,000 from this.
From
From the
the
list,
list
yeah.
and the second list as well,
Yeah.
the one that is on the back.
Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. Some of them could be shovel ready. Some of them we do have right-of-way limitations, and obviously we know that the process with state land and federal land is fairly slow. And I did provide Monica some comments, just some limitations on each of the projects. But for example, Avenue F widening, even if we added 2-3 more lanes to that roadway, the intersection that belongs to the county still needs to be widened.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we sort of just bottleneck it. So it's almost has to be like the entire corridor of expansion, including with Yuma County.
I think once we do the County 24th Street and Avenue H and a half and F and a half, I think that's going to alleviate some of the traffic on Cesar Chavez Boulevard, no matter how you put it. It's going to alleviate a lot of that traffic, and I think it's going to even it out a little. So giving us more time to actually get the funding to get Cesar Chavez widened to 5 lanes all the way to 195. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
I
so
agree.
that's the way I'm looking at these projects. I'm looking at projects that we can actually correct some of these, give us more time to fix those. And I think these are critical key projects that can actually influence on the timeline or the time frame or the funding of these projects.
Agree, Mayor. Like, for example, County 24th Street, down we have the design. We have 1.2 million committed from YMPO. So that's almost a shovel ready. We're working on the right of way. But then again, that's one that I agree. I mean, that'll make a big difference on how traffic flows between the two parts of town.
I think the two major projects, I agree, if we do the 24 to Avenue F extension, that's gonna help us as a Chavez, so that's 897,000 we could put on the table for now. What about the 4th Avenue widening at U and Cesar Chavez? I mean, considering we have the port of entry construction happening in the next 4 or 5 years, to start working on something there right now doesn't make, I mean, I guess it makes sense, but at the same time, it's not gonna be feasible because of the construction's gonna be working on 4th and Cesar Chavez, or we need that before the port of entry is done, or what are your thoughts there? Because that's 1.4 million there as well.
Yeah. So that project there by itself, it was included. It hasn't picked up as much as priority. I haven't heard it as much from council, but I think it's going to be critical once the port expands. So I think if we were to find money or fit it into like 3 budget years,
Right, and I would say we
independent
got
of
time
this
for that one too.
we could almost do it concurrently with a port expansion.
Right.
But it just, that's a project I needed to add on there because it will be needed. We have right of way, and it will require, along with just roadway, we'll probably do some water line improvements there as well. That's why the price is a little bit high.
Yeah. I think those 2 projects will put us where we need to be in the shortfall and plan that one out, like you say, in the next 3 budget years and make sure we get that done and not take it off of this list, because that'll actually put us over and free up some money for, I don't know, if it's just smaller projects or anything that need to be replaced with. I don't know. My thoughts, I don't know.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. It makes sense. Vice Mayor?
I was also gonna ask about the 4th Avenue widening between you and Cesar Chavez, so I'm glad Matias pointed that out, because I questioned that one. And then it's the most cost involved, so phase it out.
Phase it out into different budgets, and I think if, by the time I'm waiting for ADOT study. I'm waiting for them to tell us that we are basically going to have to invest major money in infrastructure. That's going to help facilitate us when we go to the state, when we talk to the legislature, when we go to the federal government, Because yes, they're winding their federal facility, but it's causing a lot of issues. We knew that, but now we need that study. That's why that study, ADOT study is so important. But yes, I think phasing it, well, budgeting out like 3 different budgets, I think would be the smart thing to do. We should not start 4 years from now. I think we should start now. Because, by the way, everything looks, we're gonna get, if we're getting 8 million people crossing or using this border per year, they estimate could be between 14, and maybe 14, between 12 and 14 million in the next couple of years. So those are a lot of vehicles. That's a lot of wear and tear in our streets. That's a lot of infrastructure. And so we really need to be proactive on this one. And also signs are very important. Lighting is very important also. But I agree with Vice Mayor and Mr. Matias.
Mayor, can I also ask something else?
Please.
So the 7th Avenue connection to Cesar Chavez and 5th Avenue connection, can you explain those to me?
So
I mean,
those-
I know they're needed and I know what they're for, but for them to be on this, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, projects proposed list.
Yeah, so those 2 streets, I mean, they've been there unconnected for decades, I think. One of them recently got connected because there was a project right next to it. So part of their project, they needed to develop half of the street width. So when that happened, you know, the concept, the idea came out that, you know, it might be good to get these 2 projects completed, both 5th and 7th. That way we have more connections to Cesar Chavez. So as staff, that's sort of what we did. Again, from our end, on those 2 streets, we do have the right of way. Design is fairly simple, probably easy to move forward. As far as priority, as far as how important it is, I think it can be, you know, both
Yeah.
ways.
And now when Vice Mayor just to bring it up, I did talk to them about those street connections. In my point of view, and I think, you know, once you picture it out, it'll help prepare those intersections for when we get the widening money for the Cesar Chavez. But meanwhile, I think it does a big impact because it'll relieve the traffic at the stop signs. Because right now, to get into the subdivisions, you either have to go to 8th, 6th, or 4th.
Yeah.
And by adding 2 more access points to the subdivisions, all that traffic has different ways to get into their houses. I mean, the parade, you remember the parade, how,
That was,
because there's no way for people to go.
yeah.
So I think those will be low-cost connections that we could do fast and it'll improve the roadway and have it ready for when we hopefully get the $35 million that we need. Because that's gonna make it shovel-ready, having those intersections and all that stuff, connections more done than Becca.
That would be an investment. That would be shortcut. What is it? Those what is it? Low cost, high impact?
Yeah.
Those are examples of low cost, high impacts. We have to, the light parade has priority, okay? We need access. I had so many complaints,
It
okay?
was a great event, but it
Beautiful
had a
event.
hell for everybody.
Beautiful event, but I had so many complaints.
Yeah.
Any other street, that was the event, okay? So that's a good investment. Yeah, so, good. Anyone else? This is not definitive. We're giving ideas. That's what you're asking for.
Yes,
And
and
so-
definitely I think that we're going in the right direction based
Yeah.
on what I have heard. Right now, it seems that definitely like the idea of splitting in the budget 3 phases for the
Fourth Avenue.
Fourth
widening.
Avenue, yeah.
yeah, definitely I think that will give us here like room to work with. Even like I think that with that idea of phasing out
Mhm.
and maybe not doing the last project, we can do all the projects in the list that are here with those funds.
Go over to the next, the 857 missed project lists. You screen that over.
Which one?
Do you have the slide for the other miscellaneous projects, or am I not seeing that on here?
No. No?
Oh, yeah, we're gonna go to the next
Oh, okay,
slide.
okay.
Yes. But definitely with this one, I think with the phasing out pretty much is relieving. But I think it's good to build cushion because we're gonna get to that conversation right now,
Yes.
the broadband premium pay. And right now, as I see it, I think that there's like $300,000 that we have here that we might utilize in another place. And with the phasing out, I think that we can do all the projects and the the 24th, we can put it in the next year budget in phase, make sure that it's there as well.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so we move to the next one. And this is the miscellaneous projects that were submitted. I think some of them, we have been waiting some time in doing them. Some of them are not like a high in cost. Some of them can be included also in budget, but also there is the opportunity to utilize these funds to do those projects. Why not? So this is where we want your input. Do you want us to remove projects from here and put them through the budget process next year? Do you want everything, do you consider that we should leave them in ARPA or relieve ARPA funds and maybe utilize them for other things like water infrastructure or broadband or premium pay?
My biggest fear is that these miscellaneous projects, they were put for a reason.
Right.
Section head, an office manager thought that these are things that we wish he had the money for. We wish he had these improvements. And I can tell you right now, for the next probably 2 budgets, these are not going to be on there. Maybe IT will get something, like a station
van.
wagon, a van, or something like that. Slightly used,
So you
okay?
better take it that like right now then, yes.
Yeah, but I think we should keep this list.
Right.
I think by what we're doing, we're going to be able to afford this miscellaneous, I
Sure.
think.
Can I
Okay.
ask a question to Monica or maybe the chief back
Sure.
there? Would it make more sense to add it here, or which way could we do the police yard fencing that we've been putting on for the past 3 years? Which way could we get
3
that done
years,
faster?
we've actually,
The police what?
What was
the
the
fencing.
budget amount for that, chief? Like 60,000 or something? 150?
it
Which
started-
way do you think we could get that faster? Adding it to this list or freeing up what we're gonna be saving and doing it in the general budget?
We've already bought you 3 times.
Yeah, I
In the
mean,
regular.
we've axed it 2 times that I know of that we've put it on there, and this would be the 3rd year, but I think it can get done relatively quick. The 2 gates are just gonna have to be getting the block up from the existing.
But the funds, what do you think?
I would say, if you need that money, take it, because I think next year under capital improvement, I'm gonna ask for it again
Okay.
anyway, because that needs to be done.
But there's no guarantee it's going to happen next year.
Correct. So, I mean, if we've got the funds and we can do it, and that's something that you don't want to take away from it, we can get it done relatively quick. We just put it out there for bid and see who would go ahead and do it. I think, like I said, laying the blocks, not going to be the hard part, because it's just going to go from the existing building around just inside of the sidewalk as far as the street, and then eventually connect right over to where the fire department is, and with a gate in between there. They're going to have to change those arm gates that we seem to hit all the time to where it's a roller gate. So a few little things with electronics is going to have to be done too, but we can get, I think when Lieutenant Reynoso finally put it all together, it was closer to the 125 to 150,000. But like I said, I think we can get it done. If we put it out right now, we could probably get it done by June
Through,
through this.
Yeah, and we
But-
can put
So-
it in right now, like I was
so
mentioning.
the 233,000 that
have
we're saving at the
330,
other end?
I have said
okay.
that, and
Alright.
we only will have like 115, but we can add it in right now with
I think that would
other
make
savings.
sense.
So,
Yeah.
okay.
And if we need to, you could take away the cameras from the local parks
Yeah.
if you need more money, because
Have
that's,
you
to me, is
called
not a
that
priority.
project, the gate?
That was just the security of the parking lot gates.
Yeah. And now our officers have a safe environment to unload, load up their cars, and
Correct.
Yeah.
And you don't have anybody coming from the street.
Right.
That can get.
you don't
inside
have to
of
watch over the
parking
back
lots.
that much, and,
And it will actually secure part of the, on that side, it'll actually secure the parking for employees as well coming
Right.
down that side too. And then all you've got is this other small area because you've got fences all the way
Yeah.
around it and stuff like that. So.
That would
I
make
mean,
sense to me.
Funding of it would be great to get it done that soon would be awesome. Yeah, appreciate that.
Christmas just passed.
You got, it? This is great. I'm gonna go back.
Okay, any
Vice
other
Chair.
questions?
Vice Mayor?
Yes, so I see 2 projects here that are like 7,000 and 3,780. Why haven't we done those with our current budget?
We can do them. It's just like we want to take in consideration all the requests that we received. This was a request. and definitely we can do it, really, it's not a lot. Either we do it with the ARPA funding or with the operational. It can be done one way or the other.
Even the 13,000, I would think wouldn't be, I
Yeah.
mean,
I
I
think-
haven't
I
checked
think-
our budget lately,
I
but
think what happened is a lot of departments are lacking a lot of stuff. And so when we budget, they prioritize what is the more important. And we always tell them, what is the most important? What do you actually need? These are perks, not perks.
This is like the
Th-
bonus
This
list.
is, I wish I had the money for this.
Christmas in January.
Yeah.
See, exactly. So no, you're right. 13,000. And trust me, I have not seen a 3,700 project improvement project given by the section heads.
Yeah, and most importantly, I
No,
think that
not
what the
cierto, sí.
department heads was like, we can do these projects right now, right away. We don't have to wait until next year budget. And I think that's one of the things that they said, we didn't put this in the budget. We have the opportunity to do this right now.
These are like low cost, high impact. And I agree, Vice Mayor, I agree.
Can you remind me what SCBA stands for?
scuba,
Scuba.
scuba diving.
Oh, there, Chief, a ver, scuba, a ver.
It's something,
Something related to
It doesn't have
fire.
a department or anything, so that's why.
I did it on purpose so he can give that
So you
explanation.
can have a chance to speak too.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Member of the Council. The SCBA's are self-contained breathing apparatus. That's the O2 that we wear. The reason I put it in, we had these purchased, the ones we have right now, 6, 7 years ago. And I think after 9 years, we have to replace them. So I was thinking.
So
if
that'll
we do
save
it
us 2
now-
years from now in the
yeah.
budget, yeah?
Can we donate what we have now to Rocky Point, to El Golfo,
Sure. we
something
can.
like that? Okay,
When they're not usable anymore.
yeah. No, when they're usable.
No, I mean, per
Me-
guide, no,
le
per
quedan 2
per
años,
federal
3
guidelines,
años.
because they're always usable, but we have to stop using them, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, that makes sense.
Non-functional with us.
Expired.
Yeah, good. So yeah, this miscellaneous, let's keep
So pretty
this.
much
this-
leave it like that, and I just, we'll just add the chief,
Yeah.
the security gates.
See,
Okay, so the next category is wastewater infrastructure, broadband, premium pay, and funds also that can be utilized to address COVID-19 negative economic impact. For those categories, we have $8.6 million. The total project submitted are 2 million, and we have a shortfall of 599, but right now we have 115, so the shortfall is for $80,000. And this is explaining the next list. Right here, you can see the categories for each of the projects. For water infrastructure, 5.3 million. Broadband, 2.9 million. Various programs to provide relief to businesses and residents, $330,000. And premium pay for essential employees, $645,000. And from here, the shortfall that we have is for 84,000, so that will be the input that I will need from all of you. We can shift, we can reduce a little bit of water, we can reduce a little bit of businesses or premium. It's up to you. That this is why your input is important. Like these are not decisions, we cannot make these decisions for you.
okay, well, the premium pay, we're not gonna touch it. The premium pay has to stay.
agree.
I think a lot of it has to do also with that broadband project, because that number, I know, speaking to Jenny and to Susan, they're estimating without really knowing it,
It's gonna be higher.
estimating high. I got a feeling that's gonna be way, way, way lower once they look up what because we do have infrastructure
You
already in
think
the
lower?
city that they don't
You
know.
think lower?
I think it'll be lower.
I think-
Per my conversations with some of the companies, a lot of the stuff has already been in place for 10 years. They don't know about it, so I don't know how that's gonna factor in here. They
Okay.
might be wrong, but Jenny, what have you heard?
I think the only way that this could be reduced is if there's a grant that we're applying to the Arizona Commerce Authority. I think the application's due January 31st. So if, let's say we ask for 10 million, then they might not need the 2.9 million from us. But, you know.
But
let's
we're
say
not
that-
gonna say that.
No, we're not, you know, because we don't know.
Yeah.
It's, look
Yeah.
at Cesar Chavez Boulevard, you know. It's, so we can't really count, and so that's why they're asking the municipalities to contribute a fair share, because we don't know how much we're gonna get from the state. And so, it could be 2.9 million because we don't get any, or it could be 2 million. You know, we don't know at this
It's
point.
a variable that is hard to know yet
It's
on that
variable
number.
to know at this point,
Yeah.
you know, if you want to reduce that, but knowing that, let's say that you reduce it to 2 million. But knowing that in the next fiscal year,
We
you
might have
might
to-
have to add that $900,000 if we don't get any.
Or the shortfall amount that we're talking about, 450. That and 450, we're gonna take off the 200 from the ED grant program.
You know, they-
That leaves it at 250 then.
for me, this program, you know, we should have done it when the COVID was happening. I brought it up, I was shut down. And so they brought it back to me and say, why didn't you push for it more? Well, here it is.
It's not much. It's not much assistance if you look at it. And the thing is, it really is not. And the
I
thing
don't think
is-
it's one of those low impact, I mean, because how do you divide, and we've discussed this. How do you do the selection criteria? How do you do this and how much for
It's not
business?
enough. If we had what is it, 650,000, then it would be an
Then it
impact.
would make an
At
impact.
200,000, mija, we're not impacting. We're
That's
not.
what the county provided in their round,
Which
200,000.
is
Yuma
nothing.
did provide almost 500,000.
Oh, because,
So, you know, so that's what they did. Somerton only provided about 100,000.
but
how
their
much is
PR
that
really
gonna get?
worked on it to the point where it
That
sounded
goes
like
to- That
millions.
goes to the other issue, the staffing and the time is gonna take away from you to be able to provide this funding.
Well, I would hire somebody to get it
Yeah,
done.
and see, that's the
you
point,
know,
so
and so you got a percentage that would go to,
Yeah.
you know, somebody,
so-
that's what everybody else
I
did.
think this downfall,
It's up to you.
I think this downfall, we can remove it from the total water infrastructure. I really
For the
can.
water infrastructure,
This is
484?
the 400, just deduct it from the water infrastructure.
water infrastructure,
Because it's not gonna make this is not gonna make a difference.
No.
right?
At the end of the
Mhm,
day-
It really doesn't,
Because when we budget or when we do bonds, we're gonna extend it for like 30, 40 years. And so it's not gonna make an impact. So,
That makes sense. Yeah.
so
You do everything else.
de veras, just,
Yeah, no, I agree. I've seen the
It's not major.
analysis, and
not
really
major.
doesn't make a
It does not.
difference at the end
Poquito
of the
nomás.
day.
so.
Okay, so I think that pretty much that balanced it out. It was easier than I thought. Thank you so much, everyone, for your help, support. I'm not sure you have any other questions.
Let's adjourn, please.
Thank you guys for
Thank
preparing
you.
it so easy to read. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Gracias, thank you.
Thank you, Monica.
I did motion to adjourn. There's a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Motion carries. Yes, proceed. Yeah, we're done. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you.